What's up, everyone, and welcome to our first episode of the cast, where we're going to talk about all things Machinima. And thanks to our producer Rizzo's sense of humor, today's episode is called Machiniwha. Well, because we all know not everyone on or off the grid knows exactly what Machinima is, we're going to give you a little dive right into it. So, just to help us out, for all of you guys watching and listening, I'm Laws, your host, and today you guys are in for one hell of a treat. We have some of Second Life's amazing directors with us today. In fact, let me introduce you to them now. So first up, we have Hugh Carr, Second Life director with Pixie Paperclip Productions, storyteller with the Black Dog Chronicles, and voiceover actor.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. And we also have Sage Absinthe Oatsmill, Second Life director, owner of Mira, Almuna Resort, and she is the art director of Sage and Crystal magazine in SL.
Hey, I'm glad to be here.
Nice, we're happy to have you. We also have MacGyver Mode, Second Life director with Tomato Productions and voiceover actor.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Of course. And last but not least,
I'm like, is she done yet?
last but not least, Yana Snow, Second Life director with Sierra Vision Studios. Oh, and by the way, big congratulations to Yana on your recent wedding.
Thank you,
Oh.
and thank you for having me.
Yes, of course, of course.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
So we're just going to kind of dive right into it, guys. So how's that sound? Sound pretty good?
Yep, the
Yeah.
water looks great. Let's dive
Sounds
in.
amazing.
Sounds good to
Let's
me.
do
Let's
it.
dive in. Okay, so we have a few questions here. Our first question is Machinima. How would you define it? Anybody can start if they want.
I would say Machinima is a subset of film animation within the 3D world, and that could, mean many different things across many different virtual platforms. But for Second Life, it's very particular because Second Life has its own systemic way of doing things that is very unique to this platform. So that's how I would define it.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. Does anybody else have anything else they'd like to put in?
Yeah, like I've always looked at Machinima as just something where you take, in the video game community especially, you just kind of take video game footage, whether it's like live footage with your character or cutscenes, and you just try to manipulate it into some type of film or scripted story. And so now, like Sage was mentioning in Second Life, it's just a whole new world there because now you're taking elements that you can't necessarily do or have the freedom to do in another video game.
Mm.
Like you're kind of limited to their
Mhm.
cutscenes or using their footage or the limitations of the character within that story. But in Second Life, you just kind of build it up as if you're, a game developer
Mm.
Right.
yourself. But it still has that whole background, general sense of manipulating video game footage. That's what I've always seen it as. But I think nowadays it's definitely turning into something different, especially now that I'm looking at people who use Blender, for example. Like Blender is not really a video game. It's more like just 3D manipulation, which is kind of like what somebody would use to make a video game, if that makes sense. So now the lines are kind of blurring for me as to what is Machinima, because it's just kind of opening up past a few boundaries that weren't there
A
before.
lot of doors are opening up.
Yeah, I see. I have a sort of personal relationship with Machinima, which is in the days when televisions had those knobs that you could you could physically turn rather than sitting there with a remote. One of the great joys in my life was turning down the sound on the television and making the people who were on the television say whatever I wanted them to say, and reshaping the narrative of live television.
Yeah.
In Machinima, we essentially are extending onto that art. We are in differing degrees because some of us will take something which is like a complete video game scene and then just sort of over label it with, say, voiceovers. Some of us will go to the extent of actually going into the mechanics of that game and pushing those mechanics using the cameras in unique ways, sometimes quite different from the way the game presents itself, and moving it over more to something which is a personal way of expressing a story or an idea. So it's pretty much like what humans have always done, which is to say, I'm not happy with that thing right in front of me. I'm going to reshape it in my own image.
Right.
And the beautiful thing for me is all of us are in different degrees active in Second Life, but through this we really get to see Second Life through the eyes of each of us. We're all shaping Second Life very personally into something which is our own speaking voice or our own vision.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. Yana, do you have anything to add?
No, not really. I think everybody pretty much said what my thoughts were. I really just look at Machinima as a creative outlet for expression on platforms like The Sims or GTA or any of the virtual video games that we might have previously viewed as being very limited until that first player or subset of players came in and just remixed the idea of what you could actually do within that world.
Right. Right. So, speaking of our definition of machinima, what are some common misconceptions about machinima?
I think that we're doing something unusual. I mean, the whole nature of Second Life is the players or the users turning it into whatever they want it to be. So, Machinima seems to me to be a natural extension of anyone who comes into Second Life and is interested in photography, art, storytelling, and any of those things, and multiple other things too. It's not a surprising thing that there should be many of us who love doing this.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Anybody else have any input on that?
I mean, I've shared some of my machinima, especially early on, with people who are not in Second Life or particularly don't even know about machinima at all. And so their idea of animation or 3D animation or whatever they want to call it is they already have a specific look in their mind. Like it's got to be fluid, it's got to be flawless. So when they see some of the stuff we make and they see they're not aware of the limitations that we're working with
Right.
kind of and what we're trying to push the boundaries of. So to them it looks either broken or there's just a lot of questions they have. They're like, wait, this looks like it's supposed to be machinima, but it looks kind of like the whoever made this video game, you know, didn't work it too well or it's broken or whatnot, and they're not realizing what we're working with. And so some of the common misconceptions about machinima, I think, will stem from the fact that some people just don't understand what machinima is altogether. So they're looking at some type of animation that is not working as they think it should work in their mind, like a 3D board artist working behind the scenes.
And
We're not the actual developers of this game.
even adding to Mac's point, on the flip side, showing someone who's not really into virtual worlds or Second Life may look at, a machinima, a video, and question, wait, so did you dress up the set? Did you work on the animations? And there's so much
Hmm.
wonder that comes with that. When you are, say, for example, a machinima artist for like a company like Riot Games, right? Or Zynga, you are walking into something that's already created by their developers, and all you have to do is focus on getting each shot and maybe, developing a shot list with the rest of the team. But working as a machinima artist in Second Life, you're working from point A to point B. Some people going as far as creating the animations themselves or building, meshing the set themselves. So it's very different.
And you have a lot of people from the
Hmm. Yeah,
outside
and they're
asking as well, like, "Oh, how did you do this?" or "Where did you get that?" or "How did you make that happen?" or yeah.
yeah, that's the start of a good conversation to get people involved or interested or just curious about it, like what Sage was saying. The initial criticism that people could do is basically, hey, this looks broken or why doesn't it look like this? They just have a specific expectation of what animation should look like everywhere. And then when the more you talk to them about it, you can say, well, this is what I'm doing. I'm actually doing this myself and I'm building this within this world. Most people are going to want to look into that and be like, oh, maybe that's something I can do as well. And I didn't know that you could do this. So it can you can get some of the harsher criticisms, but you can also incur interest and wonder and curiosity.
We
Right.
live in a world where a lot of the media that we consume these days is very, very highly polished, even to the extent that the polishing matters more than the actual content of the media itself. So when we're coming in from a rawer, more visceral level and wanting to concentrate more on the passion of why we're wanting to do it rather than how sparkly it looks, it can take people aback.
Hmm.
Because as Max said, they have expectations. But one wouldn't go from a film where everything is directed and takes have been done and an editor has polished it, and then go into a stage play and assume these two mediums to be somehow akin. They are entirely different things. And what everyone is doing here is increasing the amount of people who can enjoy it and see this rawer, more accessible way of storytelling.
Hmm. It's like we're trying to get as close as possible to the expectation that people see when they think animation. And as the years pass by, we are actually able to get a lot
Mm.
closer. So I think that's what we do, all of us, in our own ways. We're basically pushing boundaries to try to reach that expectation.
And pushing boundaries, my goodness, that's what we do.
So, now that we've kind of talked about these misconceptions and we've kind of defined, what Machinima is, tell me, guys, what is one of the first Machinima films you ever saw?
I learned about Machinima with the Halo series. There was some type of, I forget exactly what it was called, but it was a series. It wasn't really just a one film. And I was just amazed. I was like, wait, this person took a video game using their own voiceovers, but then I'm pretty sure this is not the way the video game is supposed to go. And that's when I realized that they were just kind of manipulating the characters, the field, maybe getting other players to use as actors. And I was just mesmerized by that. I thought that was incredibly um, just really cool, actually. And I believe that's maybe where the term machinima came from. I'm not entirely sure about that, but I think there was a whole company called Machinima that utilized this type of thing, and it kind of went under due to maybe copyright
Mm.
issues or something. But that was my first introduction to
Play
that.
on words,
Prior to
right?
that, I always considered,
Mm,
yeah.
Yeah.
I would
And prior to
say,
that, the best thing I'd seen was a Final Fantasy
Mhm.
thing.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
mm,
that was the first foray. Go ahead, Sage.
sure, sure. I would probably say my first introduction was like back in 2007 when The Sims 2 was like huge and people were still playing it right before Sims 3 dropped. And there was a bunch of machinima artists that were creating music videos to like Lady Gaga songs. Well,
In
maybe
The
that's more
Sims?
2008, 2009. Yes,
I've
like
not
music videos
seen
that
this.
emulated. It looks exactly like the real life videos or like Diva by Beyonce. And they created the exact same looks, the exact same sets. And I remember sitting like in front of my computer with my sister and we were just like jaw dropped, like, what is going on here? What is this? And like, of course, I forgot about it for like a decade and then you know came then I finally
A
rejoined,
decade, yeah,
yeah,
a little bit.
exactly, rejoined Second Life and I was like, oh my god, okay, this is a thing.
Mm. That's funny.
Sims, but like on steroids, right? Just Second Life.
It's so much more and yes, elusive.
For me, the answer of the question is sort of in two parts, because I have a feeling that I probably have been exposed to machinima before, but it just didn't resonate, and so it didn't go in. But I think Second Life was really the medium through which it became very apparent to me. Firstly, through Mac's things.
Hmm.
I think Mac and I had been friends for a bit, and he had asked me to be,
It's a couple of
Good
years
yeah,
now,
guy.
yeah.
had been involved to be in one of his great works, and so
I believe you did X-Men and Superman.
yes, X-Men was the first one that you asked me to do, I think, and
Yeah, you were Gambit in
that's
Nightcrawler.
right. And I sat down and watched it, and uh, it sort of struck me like a lightning bolt, and I went, because I love storytelling. It's the core of my being since I was a child, and I went, oh my goodness, why have I not seen this as something to do? I mean,
You're
I've
like,
loved
what is this?
yeah, like I've loved role playing in Second Life. It was my first love in Second Life. Getting together with other people and writing stories together was immense fun. But for me now, Machinima has been the next step up. But just if I may say as well, I inadvertently made my own Machinima years ago and didn't realize until today and went, oh, that was Machinima, which was when that song, that song, It's Raining Tacos, everyone was playing.
Oh
Oh
my
my gosh.
gosh.
I got a
Yes.
bunch of people together and we filmed a video all around It's Raining Tacos.
Did you
And
have little animations where it actually rains tacos on you?
yes, we had that. We had little
Yeah.
dance things. We had this little story about it getting more and more absurd every time it came to the chorus. The stranger and stranger people would be dancing to the tacos. The aliens from Aliens. Um, Slender Man, Morgan Freeman, of course, and it just became more and more bizarre and extreme. But it was done all entirely through Second Life. So
That's
without
hilarious.
even knowing what I was doing, I birthed my own first Machinima.
That's amazing.
Listening to everyone else give their account, I had to think back and kind of, observe like when did I actually first come across Machinima? And I think Mac touched on this and he talked about Final Fantasy. And I am a huge, huge fan of the franchise and fan made
Oh, we will
videos.
be talking after this interview.
Fan made videos for Final
Connections.
Fantasy were probably the first
Mm-hmm.
uh, instance of machinima that I did see, but to speak for the inexperienced here, I haven't been actually making videos for that long. And so I think the first time that I ever thought about making a machinima and that applying to me was when I would see dance animation vloggers on Instagram.
Oh
And I
yeah.
saw people who were making videos, and then I would read the comments, and I'm hearing something about Black Dragon. I'm like, what's that?
Mm.
And that's how I ended up discovering
Not to be
machinima
confused.
in that way. Exactly.
Mm.
And it was very inspiring at the time. And then I finally decided to do it for myself because I wanted that creative outlet.
Right. That's amazing.
I was a little bit let down when I first heard of Black Dragon because I was expecting to meet this giant dragon saying, I am the Black Dragon! But no, it's...
It wasn't until Hughes mentioned about accidentally creating Machinima. So, like, I think I'm today days old when I realized I actually made Machinima over a decade ago. I
Yeah.
just never realized it was Machinima. Like, what we're doing right now is scripted, it's an
Mhm.
SL, it's a whole thing. But Yana also bringing up the Final Fantasy thing again. I actually did Final Fantasy Machinima over a decade ago. I would take clips. It started off with just music videos, and then there was a video I did from Final Fantasy 14 with some friends in a guild, and we kind of made it like a Legend of Zelda type thing. But there was no voice acting, there was no words on the screen. So I guess I need to broaden that horizon and realize that also
Yeah.
counts as Machinima, just because
Yeah.
there's no voice acting or action and all that. So yeah, I guess my first Machinima accidentally created was over
Wow.
10 years
I don't
ago.
know. Do
It was
do
music
videos
videos.
of dancing on the dead people that you've just shot in a death match count?
Are you filming it? Are you
You know,
filming it?
yeah, that is that's important for every
So
Machinima.
I think honestly, okay, so these questions are definitely for all of you guys, but I have to actually put some input on this one because I think the first Machinima I ever saw, and I want to say this because it's just too funny, is actually from WoW, World of Warcraft, where it was like that guy was dancing. He was like, "Da-da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da-da-da," you know? You guys know that one?
Yes, the
Phenomenal.
Maybe
Muppet
I
song.
just
I've come
aged
across it.
myself.
Yeah, how old are
Oh,
you? No,
I mean, come
don't
on,
answer.
Phenomena transcends the ages.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of people have been exposed to Machinima
Mhm.
just by the legendary Leroy
Oh,
Jenkins.
yeah.
So that is that's
And
Machinima
because it's
in
so
our group.
accessible. I mean, we really are talking about something that literally anyone could do if they wanted to put
Right.
the mind to it.
Right.
Hmm.
Yeah. Well, moving on here, we've talked about a lot of, a few things about Machinima here. And so, what do you guys think are some common mistakes that some of our new Machinima creators make?
Oh, I have
That's
thoughts
a
on
really
this
good
one.
one. Yeah.
Well, go
Mm.
ahead. Yeah.
My initial thought was, and this applies to me, I'm guilty as charged. Copyright infringement is
Oh yeah.
probably the first mistake that most of us make.
Mm-hmm.
Because we're already using like a borrowed materials, in a sense, I think that new people don't pay as much attention to unauthorized usage of real life branding, concepts, imagery, etc. And it can affect you in a lot of ways. You can't monetize if that's
Right.
something that's a goal for you, and you get strikes, and especially
Mm.
with music videos too. I know a lot of us that did
Yes.
music videos have to
Mm-hmm.
suffer with every
Right.
notification and every email to say, take that down, you don't own
Yeah.
it.
It is blocked in
There's
Russia
definitely
and North
yeah.
Korea.
Yes.
There's actually a one of our directors in the SLVGC, or sorry, SLVCG community, and Discord was talking about just the other day in one of the helpful tutorials that we have. She was saying it was actually Tiara or Tiara, however you want to pronounce it. She was actually saying that if you upload the song first and like test it, then you can kind of see if it's going to be copyrighted or not. And I guess apparently there's a list somewhere that you can find too, where you can actually search the song and the title. I think our producer Rizzo has a website that you might
I,
be able to use. But like, yeah, like you were saying, it's probably just best just to use some copyright free music. It's hard.
Yeah, I think Yana touched on it. It's sometimes you just got to go into understanding. Like when you're using copyrighted music, for the most part, you'll be allowed to use it, but you simply just can't monetize it. So if your goal is to monetize with your work,
Okay.
then absolutely stay away from copyrighted
Mm.
music.
right.
If your goal, if you're going into it and understanding, look, I'm not here to make money. I'm here to create some art, and I'm going to use copyrighted music to do it.
Right.
As
Right.
long as you understand that you're not able to monetize, I think that is where it's going to be,
And
and
that's
you're
just
okay as long
monetizing
as
your
you're allowed to also upload
YouTube,
it.
right? That's what we're talking about, or just in general?
Instagram, anything
Yeah.
meta,
Anything.
Yeah.
Okay.
anything. Yeah.
And I just got and Rizzo just let me know that YouTube actually closed that website. So I do apologize for mentioning that. So there's no
So
website.
We'll strike it from the
Strike it from
record.
the record.
There's also Epidemic Sounds that does provide music and sounds and sound effects,
Hmm.
but it comes at a charge, of course.
Right.
There's a
yeah,
subscription, but that is also an
Right.
option.
Motion Array is another good one. Hmm.
Yeah. Film
You
pack,
can actually
even.
still use YouTube for copyright
Yeah.
free music. They do have a
Yes.
library. Sometimes you don't even have to use that. You can just simply go and look for just type in free soundtrack
Hmm.
music. There's a lot of
yeah.
it. You can just rip
Even
and download.
Spotify has it
Just
too.
released a short film that is back to back one composer from YouTube, all who gave free permission to use it, and it was
Nice.
That's
beautiful.
awesome. Yeah, that's really awesome.
The one of the classic mistakes I think that any artist can make, it's not just people in the machinima world, particularly if you're new to the medium that you're engaging with, is your ambition stretching too far beyond the horizon of your abilities. It's nice to have a grand vision, but there's nothing that's going to rob you of your artistic endeavors more than if you cannot reach anywhere near the ambition that you have in your mind. So, doing something small, something experimental, just to see what your abilities are, um, opening it up for criticism so that people can help you, because criticism is great and really helps us to advance our skills, and moving by degrees
Right.
so that
Well
we
said.
don't we don't want to do something which is going to be a burden to us. We want to do something which,
Mm-hmm.
at the end, we can look back on. We
Right.
were talking about earlier of sometimes looking back on our earlier work and saying, oh my goodness, it was so terrible. But what we determined
Hmm.
was that that's great because it means we've come somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
If we're looking back and saying we could do so much better than that now. So realizing that we're stepping into something which is going to be an incremental scale, we're never going to be 100% happy. We're
Right.
always going to have something to learn.
Right. Right.
That resonates
That was going to be my
deeply.
feedback
Yes,
there,
very much so.
and what he was saying. That like I have an issue with the term mistake, but I understand the question. But basically, what he was just saying right there is what I was gonna touch on is that the mistakes, like every single thing that we do that we see as a mistake, is gonna help us with the next film or the next episode because we're gonna catch it there and we're gonna learn from it and make it better. So, some of my advice is always to new machinima creators is don't be afraid to make
Mm.
mistakes. In fact, make all the
Mm-hmm.
mistakes
Mm-hmm.
that you possibly
Right.
can. So, like when we discussed green screening, like you said, where it's the scope of your ability. I'd never touched green screening in my
Mm.
life. In fact, I never wanted to because I felt like that's way ahead of my limits and abilities. But I just needed to go ahead and try it, make some mistakes, and then learn from it so that the next film could be better. Sometimes I overcompensated, sometimes I didn't, and you find that middle ground where you start getting comfortable with it. So mistakes are super necessary. But in understanding the question, the spirit of the question, I would say, yeah, mistakes are necessary. Please make all of them. But
Right.
an example of something maybe not to do for a new creator is
Mm-hmm.
rushing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, you have an idea in your
Mm-hmm.
head. You want to get that out
Right.
there. You want to get it out of your head into the screen, ready for everyone to see. Um, so don't
Mm-hmm.
rush it. I tell people don't take too long. Don't let your ideas sit for too long. First step is always getting boots on the ground. Get people, your actors or yourself in world, logged in. Turn your recorder on, and just start capturing. The best thing to do is just get moving. So I guess the
Hmm.
advice is don't rush, but also don't drag your feet
Right.
either. It's two ends of the
Yeah.
same
Yeah.
spectrum.
And I would love to add to both of your guys' points is in the beginning, especially for me, I was so afraid to ask for help.
Mm.
Right.
And that's something that I'm seeing new machinima artists might be stunted with
Mm-hmm.
because maybe they don't feel like um, they don't want to bother others, or maybe they're nervous to
Right.
share their vision with others. But there is so much progression when you're able to ask for help in different aspects of your film,
Right.
whether it be someone who could help you build the set, or someone who could help with the voice acting,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe the lighting, something that you see where you might fall short in, you
Mm-hmm.
can always bring in support. And I would always say, forget the overthinking. People will be happy to help you with your
And
work.
they are. There's so many directors, there's so many people in Second Life, there's so many people who want to help. There's so many people who have these skills that are like, yes, ask me. Yes, I would love to. Yes, what can I do for you? And I think there's an intimidation almost with people, too.
There
They're.
definitely is.
Yeah.
Mhm.
There
People
definitely is.
will forgive the mistakes we make.
Mhm.
We are all children of the post Star Wars era. Before
The
Star Wars
evil Star
existed,
Wars.
there was
No.
nothing else like it. And everyone will look back at the original Star Wars film and say what a marvel it was, but never let us forget that if you look hard in the background, you can see a stormtrooper whack his head on the door as he
I
goes
don't
through.
know. He kissed his sister, and I was done with the
I've
movie.
seen that.
No.
But the point of the matter
Oh
is
no.
that what you may see as glaring travesties that you can't cope with, other people will miss because they're engaged
Yeah.
with that your work does well.
Mm-hmm.
And an awful lot of people who receive
Hmm.
art are are much more forgiving than the artists themselves.
Right.
So
Yes.
That is
be
true.
open
That's
your
true.
ears to the good things that people say.
Right.
I've had to learn this a lot myself because I'm your
Mm-hmm.
classic self-deprecating artist. And whenever someone says something good, I go, "Oh well, I don't know. I think I did this wrong."
And
And,
don't
and
hyper focus on the things you can't change. I don't know how many
yeah,
times I've sat
exactly.
in Premiere Pro going, I need to fix this, I need to fix this, I need to fix this. And Rizzo, who's always been my mentor on things, has always just been like, move on, Laws.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fix it
Just
next time, or like
The audience will
look at
see
it,
it.
go back to it, or whatever it is, go back, come back to it later.
They'll get what you're
Yeah.
trying to put out.
Yeah.
The audience will forgive certain
Mhm.
things. Like recently when I shared that train sequence and someone pointed out, well, the tracks aren't moving, and it's like, but you can tell it's on a moving train because of the rest of the
Mhm.
background. And so you're kind of like hoping the audience will just forgive you and be like, all right, but you know what I'm doing, right?
Mhm.
You see it?
And they
Okay.
actually do. And I have found the comments that people will give about things that they love take me by surprise because they're not the things that I'm expecting that they're going to focus
Right.
on. People say, "Oh,
Mhm.
I really like this one moment when that person walks past in the background." What? What? Why? And then
That
they
was
explain
totally
it,
an
and
accident. No.
yeah, and it makes all the sense in the world to them. It
Yeah.
fit.
Yeah.
It fit.
Yeah.
What matters.
That's when you just chime in. You're like, I did that on
Yeah.
purpose.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, a bit.
Just claim it.
the
Just
The
own it.
point of the matter is that any art that goes out is a relationship between the creator and the receiver. It's
Mhm.
not a single thing in itself. It's never just what the creator makes. It's never just what the critics say. It is some nebulous thing that dwells in between those two realms. So be comfortable with that, and
Right.
trust your audience.
Right. I think that's a really good statement to end on. And I do want to point out before we do move on, I was going to mention this earlier with the copyright music. Maybe try to find someone in SL who makes music or who
Hmm.
sings or who's an artist or a musician, and maybe get some kind of partnership with them or some kind of collaboration with them, and see if you can use their music in your films. Maybe that's a good idea to help with the copyright music part.
There are a
But
wealth of people to draw on
mhm,
in Second Life.
yeah.
That's what brings me back time and time again. I keep meeting people with amazing skills who say, "I'd really like you to use my skill."
Right. Right. I agree. All right, so let's see here. Where are we at on our questions? How would you explain the difference between, filming in real life and filming in Second Life? So, as we were talking about before, we talked about our limitations and how to work around them, and maybe as well as some of the benefits of working in Second Life versus real life. Like, I know we've already talked about limitations and people viewing our
Hmm.
work as having some limitations and saying, why is this like this when it could be this? But maybe like, what are some more, what is the difference between real life and filming in Second Life?
Control. It, like
Mm.
in the real
Yes.
world, if I want a camera to move in a very particular way, I build a dolly track. I the
Hmm.
cinematographer knows exactly what stops to have at certain focus points. I can be pretty sure that a shot as designed comes out as I desire it to be. In Second Life, I have to surrender to my lack of control
Yes.
and
Mm-hmm.
say, "I'm sorry, mate.
Right.
You're gonna have to cope. You've shot that
Yeah.
15 times. Stop.
Hmm.
Take
Mm-hmm.
one of those takes and move on."
I don't know how many times have you like
I
used
feel like
one animation that's completely different from what you're trying to do, but they have that little 5-second window of what you need.
Yes.
Yes.
Hmm.
Yeah.
scope it
Hmm.
out.
That's the meme when I
I can't when it comes to the movement, like what you were saying. Oh, go
No,
ahead,
you
Yana.
go ahead.
Sorry. So Hugh, when you were talking about movement, I was gonna go in the opposite of direction with
Ah.
that in terms of benefits. And so, like, I understand what you're saying, but sometimes when I'm filming in Second Life, in real life, you are dependent on the camera and the hookup and getting that view
Hmm.
and stuff. But in Second Life, when you start to really get into it, whatever you're using, you're literally flying full
Very
full view
true. Yeah.
360. You can go wherever you
Yeah.
want.
Yes.
You can zoom in wherever you want. You can zoom out any angle that you're looking for. It's possible.
Yeah.
And I think there's such a creative freedom in that, and that's what I feel like. I feel like I'm a cameraman flying around the film set capturing what I
Mm.
want when I want, with complete utter control because we're in this video game. So like the camera is now my eyes. It's just, and when I filmed in real life, and I realized that can also be limiting because that's like, okay, I have to either be, you're in this dolly or you're running or you're riding
Mm.
something. There's just a difference. So I feel more freedom, more control in Second Life when it comes down to the camera.
Interesting.
Mhm.
Well,
I
what
definitely have to agree.
what do you feel about in terms of precision, though? Like, you have a framing moment that you want to get in which it zooms up to
Mhm.
the eyes and you don't want any of the nose visible. You just want it perfectly to stop here, and you're
Yeah,
and you're
I
zooming
think
up and you're
real
going,
life
stop,
definitely
stop,
has
stop,
the
stop,
advantage
please
there.
stop, and it doesn't.
Yeah, there's just benefits and limitations in both. But yeah, just I understood what you were saying before, and I thought the opposite was there's also a sense of control with just movement like
Right.
that. Yana, you were gonna bounce on that as well?
Yeah,
Bounce off at
yeah,
you?
between what you and Hugh are saying, I agree with both sides. It's kind of a double-edged sword
Mm,
because you don't have to worry about a dolly and a track or a tripod
Right.
or having to run back and move your camera. With
Mhm.
Second Life, you can just, it's a couple of clicks and you're
Right.
able to
Mm-hmm.
almost simulate a lot of realistic camera movements. But like what Hugh was saying, there are some stops there where you can't quite get the precision that you could in real life because for one, if you zoom up into
Mm-hmm.
something, there's a great possibility that your camera will phase through it
mm,
instead of stopping on time because there's something to collide with. Um,
Mhm.
but I
Yeah.
think that it is rather freeing on to film virtually because you don't need physical equipment. There's nothing that you have to go and load up into a truck. You just really an Xbox controller if you have that or desire to use that and you plug it in and you're good to go and almost anybody can be a filmmaker. There's
mm.
not really you're not intimidated by having to decide which camera is the best camera for you to use or the most affordable
Right.
or anything
Yes.
like
Right.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
True.
Mhm.
I
Say
think
I was
it's
gonna piggyback.
And
Oh,
I was just
sorry.
gonna invite you to say something.
yeah, go
Yeah.
ahead.
Yeah, actually, to piggyback of all of your points, I think the main thing with filming in real life and Second Life, and I say this because as my experience in real life, I work as a commercial director, and you have to always keep in mind like the stakeholders when
Mm,
you're filming in real life. But in Second Life, there is absolutely, since you are kind of like the jack of all trades, you can do
Right.
absolutely everything you want to do. Even if you want to change a shot within a split second, you can do that. And second, I
Mhm.
mean, in real life, you have to go through, well, first of all, you can't really do that when you're on set. You have to go by the shot list that's been presented
mm,
and approved by everyone. And then of course budget,
Mhm.
in Second Life you could go straight to marketplace, buy whatever you need. If you are missing, like, I don't know, a tree,
Mhm.
you could do
You
that.
don't need
Hmm.
And,
permits to build a set.
and it's like 30 cents, US
yeah, that's
dollars.
a good
Yeah.
point.
So it's
Yeah.
so there, I think there's a lot more freedom in that, besides the limitations of like the animation or the facial expressions or wheels not moving on a train track.
Mhm.
So there's beauty in both, of course, and so that's just what I had to say.
You don't have to
Matt,
get insurance for
yeah.
your
Yeah.
actors.
can I just
Yeah.
ask? Just want to ask a question. I think Mac. It's one of your films. I'm pretty sure. Please correct me if I'm wrong. I think it's the start of Digital Rain. That there's a shot that starts very
Mhm.
high in the air, and it goes down, and it goes through a little aperture, and then zooms right down to two characters. And I was just thinking as we were speaking about how you would achieve that in real terms, eh, like in the real world. And the truth is, you couldn't. You would have to. It would have to be an amalgam of a whole lot of different shots. It would have to be a helicopter
Mm-hmm.
shot at one point and a drone at another, and then a close-up camera. So it's
Correct.
it is a very good point that maybe my dislike of the lack of control is not having full grips with the medium. Maybe the medium, I need to get a little bit more competent. There is just one thing I'd like to add to that, though, and this is a massive frustration for me, and it's why Second Life doesn't have, like every other 3D rendering thing there is, an XYZ axis for the camera, so that you can actually determine an exact position in coordinates for where you want the camera to start and where you want the camera to end. It would be so easy to implement. So anyone from Second Life
So kind
who
of like
does the
what they
mechanics of it,
do.
if you're listening, please implement that into the program.
That would be
I
nice.
mean, even if they don't have that built into Second Life, there are HUDs that are sold where you can implement that into your work.
Oh,
Like I
there you
use,
go.
yeah, Camera Angel by Fourth Wall. That's one thing
Writing that
you can
one
use to.
down.
Yes, and then there's another one that I don't know if you know the name of it, Yana, but Gorilla Burlesque uses it to control the camera angles and movement when they have live shows. And it's simply amazing. If any of you guys have time, please visit Gorilla Burlesque shows Friday nights at 10 p.m. SLT. I could provide the link. They create like these whole cinematic experiences while you're watching the show live.
Fantastic.
That's
Yeah,
So
that
I'll get
sounds
the name for
amazing.
you
So do
That's
you
a
mean
regardless.
spot
it?
on, right?
and that's
Do you mean it
achievable.
takes control of
No.
your camera view? Do you mean?
Yes.
Right. So,
Right.
for example, if you're seated right in a theater seat, you have to reset your camera angle, and then the seat has a control system embedded throughout the show, and your viewpoint is what they created. So, like, they have a scene starting out with a girl, looking out a window with rain.
Yes.
So that's where the shot starts, and then the camera can pick up and follow her walking through a house, and then her falling into a dark hole,
Mhm.
and then she's dancing in a different
Okay.
universe.
I need to
So,
know about this.
yes,
Yeah,
I will
yeah.
find that name for you and I'll
That
send it
kind of
over.
leads into our next question of an exciting feature that has changed the game of Machinima. So, like, maybe this is kind of answering itself. You guys have talked about the Xbox controllers and, this
Yes.
program
I
that
have
Sage is talking about.
an exciting feature.
Hmm.
It's the one that Sage just said.
Yeah. Yeah.
Laz, can I mention one more thing about the benefits before we move on to that question? Because I think this is like the huge, it's a very huge
Hmm.
part of why
We are on a
machinima is
time,
something that
though. Okay.
everybody should consider.
Listen. No.
Yeah, absolutely. Just remember, yeah, that's she's cutting me off the stage, everyone. So think about the production of all these films, right? They're always talking about the budget and how much money it costs to create. Think about all the film
Mhm.
sets, the all the costuming and all
Mhm.
that. Like Hugh and I, we did something X-Men a couple years ago. We just went to the marketplace. It's literally a few bucks that we spent for costuming. Think about the film sets that we build. I think Sage, you mentioned that you do that as well.
Mhm.
How much money are you saving creating in the
Right.
metaverse as
Right.
opposed to finding somewhere in the
Yeah,
real
quite
world to
right.
build
Right.
a Stranger
And
Things
like
My
film
what
set or
goodness.
costuming
exactly,
and
and
all
like
that?
what Rizzo was saying, you have
Yeah.
to have permits to build sets and you have to get
Mhm.
insurance
Yes.
for
Hmm.
actors. There's
Yep.
so much more to it that
This is a
everybody just
huge
doesn't know.
benefit.
You
Mhm.
can't move forward with any single aspect of a real life film without getting a green light from somebody.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right.
So,
Hmm.
Right, right.
Yeah. So like all of that stuff that you do, like you are the jack of all trades, but you're also, saving so much
Mhm.
money. So what somebody could build for millions of dollars, and you're here in the metaverse building it for like maybe 20
Right,
bucks.
right.
Let's all
And
stop
that's
and
right there, something to
let's all
consider.
stop and remember too. There was a time when people were poo-pooing cinema and saying what a ridiculous medium it was, and
Mhm.
how it will never live up to going and looking at a painting in a museum and so
Right.
forth and so on.
Mm.
And we are right at the burgeoning stage of most of us don't come from a film and television
mhm.
background,
Mhm.
and we are putting our visions out for people to enjoy, and the
Making it
making it
accessible.
accessible.
Right, right. And that kind of goes into, one of the next questions that we had for you guys was it's pretty much being shunned by the traditional animation industry too. So how do you guys feel that Machinima will one day be able to stand toe to toe with animated films? Like, do you guys believe that it will, or do you not? Like, what do you think is going to take it to push it forward? Or, if you don't agree with it, what do you think it lacks to make it the grade?
It'll be that one creator who produces something that no one was expecting and everyone's blown away by.
Yeah.
Right, that
Yeah.
That's
Netflix
what it
is
will take.
Mhm.
buying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's,
Yeah.
I
It's happening
yeah.
already, actually, just step by step. But look
I
where we are now compared to 10 years
Right,
ago.
right.
I think what the main issue though with that is that you don't really have full copyright or creative ownership over everything that is included in the machinima,
Right.
which could be a legal issue. So we are using products that we're buying off of Marketplace. We're only buying the license to use that. So
Mhm.
I wonder how that could transpire if,
That
say,
is true.
there
Yeah.
is, you know what I mean? If a platform like Netflix or Hulu wants to purchase a film that was created in a metaverse platform, or like even or in a game like GTA, Riot Games would have to come in and clear that,
Right,
which I highly doubt they
right.
would. So I think that would be the
That's really good
major.
point. That's a
Yeah.
really
I
great
don't
We've
point.
know
we've
if it
got
could go
SL
that
Like,
far.
how many
Machinima
people, how many
already
creators would
streaming
they have
though.
to talk to? Be like, can we use we're getting ready to turn this to
Right.
Netflix. Can we use
Right.
this? And then they're like,
Let me
Or
you're going to have to
let me
pay
give
me.
LP a shout out here.
Who? Oh.
LP Kid, I'm gonna give him a shout out here. He's the first and I believe only example of a Second Life Machinima director who has his Machinima streaming on a major streaming platform like Amazon Prime, I believe it was.
Oh,
So he
Blimey.
was able to take some of his Second Life Machinima film and have it stream on Amazon. So someone like me, who just from the comfort of my living room could turn on the app or the TV and just watch Second
Mhm.
Life Machinima like that.
mm,
So he reached that audience, and I was amazed at that
wow.
How
accomplishment.
does
I didn't
that
even know
how
that
does
he
that
had
work? Is
done
that
that.
something like, like if you want to Amazon will if you write a book, most of you probably know, if you write a book, Amazon will publish it for free. And then also they will make your books for you, and they will just cut off a percentage of what that book cost.
Mm.
So is that the same
So when
with
it comes to
films and
shopping,
things like that? Is it something like they'll produce it for free for you and
I'm
just put it
unsure of
on there?
his exact process,
there's two
but
different
I'm
ways.
assuming he had to sign
Yeah.
up for that and pay
Hmm.
something or go through it.
Yeah.
But
Rizzo is
they
saying that
the
they
main
don't
point is that they
accept
put Second
Machinima
Life on that.
anymore, he believes. So,
Okay.
yeah.
So I'm not sure if it could ever be seen as something leveled like to actual animated films because
yeah.
of those reasons.
Yeah, I
I
was
think
gonna
it's going to have
say.
to go through some hoops before it does.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't know. Never say never is something that I think
True.
is important. There was a situation that happened. I live in Australia at the moment, and there's a very well known song that came out in Australia by the band Men at Work. That's the I come from a land down under
I
thing,
was
and
hoping you were going to sing it for us, but I wasn't going to insist too hard.
Australians actually use it as a pseudo anthem. Now there is one element in it that goes da 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 dum da da, which is a very it's
Yeah.
a nod to the song Kookaburra Sits in the Old
Mm-hmm.
Gum Tree.
Mm-hmm.
No one cared about it at all. It's sort of like an Australian icon singing that song.
Right.
However, the copyright owner of that song, about 25, 30 years after it was released, took a copyright action on
Oh,
that
isn't there like
song.
limitation to copyright?
Well, apparently not. And what happened, it's so terrible, I probably shouldn't go into it to any great depth, but it actually ended up with the young, or the chap who had written that part dying as a result
Oh
of the
no. Yeah.
of the hardship that he went through. Now,
Mm.
the ramifications of this, though, is people are now so angry at copyright law that if you want to do something like that again, you can say goodbye to any cordial relations with anyone. So,
Yeah.
whilst I agree we have very stringent copyright laws these days, it is shifting and changing. It is beginning
Right.
to understand that there is some level of the spirit of the law, not the word of the law.
Right.
Are we going to go back through the 80s? the period where sampling was a huge thing, taking a bit of someone else's song and using it as a sound in your song. Are we going to go through and destroy all of that era because it essentially infringed copyright?
Right.
There's an extension there in which we're saying, no, an art is shaping and an art is changing. And unless you're not going out to deliberately take from someone's work and capitalize and take profit away from them, I think the understanding is beginning to grow that an art enters into the public consciousness. It becomes part of something beyond just the people who design the costumes or wrote the stories or voiced the characters or whatever. It is shaping and changing. It's
Right.
not without its dangers, though, as Sage was quite rightly saying.
Right. And I would like to add before we move on to the next question, because we do have to keep, like I'm not trying to cut you guys off or anything like that. I just want to make sure we have a nice flow here. But I do want to add something, Hugh. The way your credits ended and the way that you gave recognition to like even like you were like the clothing designers and like you showed the different clothing stores that you used. A lot of Machinima directors, producers, when they give credits, they don't always do that. It's usually like sometimes it's just written in the description or something like that. I really loved how you did that in your credits. So I wanted to, credit you on doing your
Thanks.
credits.
Well, I think all of us recognize that we only get to present a vision because of the cleverness of a whole bunch of people. And I wanted, and I'm sure there are people that I missed, but I wanted to say as much as possible, these are all the people it took to get this thing
Right.
to the way it was. And I'll tell you what, those what I wrote to other people whose costumes had appeared in the film, and they were the only 4 that got back to me. So that's why they got that specific credit.
Right.
They were so happy. They were absolutely
And
over
most
the
are.
moon. Yeah, and they were basically saying, "Oh, it's so lovely that you want to do that."
Right.
And it made me realize, what, is this not what people do? I just thought that this would be normal.
Right.
But
So,
and then you build this relationship. It's fantastic.
Right. So I do have a little, some of you guys are newer directors. Some of you are more seasoned, but there are a lot of new Machinima artists that are coming out of the woodwork right now. We know because we see so many names popping up. I said that kind of wrong, but we see so many names. Like I'm super excited about it. Sorry, that came out like it was tiring, but it's not tiring. It's just there's a lot that we watch. We watch so many videos every month, but we love it. They're popping up on our judges watch list every month. So is there maybe like a particular SL director that you guys have your eye on because they're breaking new ground and showing the SL community things that we've never seen before? Anybody?
I want to say yes. And
So many.
her name starts, Jessica Schilling. There we go. I mean, I think she's kind of like in a place where she's experimenting deeply. I mean, aren't we all the time? But I feel like her aesthetic, her way of filming is quite unique. And there are aspects of storytelling, but I think she's having so much fun with how she shoots things and like the animation of the characters and all of that. And she focused so much on costume, like very detailed. And I think it almost feels like it's like she's building up momentum to like releasing something big.
Yeah, I feel
think
that too.
that's what it
feel
feels
that
like.
too.
Yeah.
What was that person's name again? I'm going to write it down.
Jessica Schilling.
Jessica.
I'll send a link
Say that
to
again.
her
Your audio was cutting out just a little bit.
Jessica Schilling.
Schilling, yeah. She goes by a different name too. I know.
Johanna
Frost. Yeah, thank you. Yana Mac. While he's writing down that name, do you guys have any other, up and coming artists that
Yeah, there's a new artist I discovered just very recently, actually, a few months ago, and she just recently connected with us in the Machinima group. But I believe her name is Plumita from Plum Productions.
Yes, I love her work.
She's does a lot of interesting stuff.
Yeah.
Yes, and it's very like there's shorter
Out of the
type
box.
stuff, but I feel like
Mm-hmm.
very much. And I think some of the stuff that captivated me was her cyberpunk type stuff, or there was a Resident Evil
Yeah.
style thing. Her camera movement and style of cinematography is just it's
Yeah.
captivating, and I'm actually keeping an eye on her to see what else she can come out with. I'm waiting for that big
Yeah.
cinematic feature that I know she can
Yeah.
do.
Yana, what about you?
I would say for me, it's Godiva Varela. I hope I'm saying that properly. I'm saying it like the chocolate brand, but
It's okay.
um,
For I saw her come into my Twitch channel once, and I was
She
like,
is
"Oh,
amazing.
hello, Go Diva. What's up, Go Diva?"
yeah, for me, she's definitely one of those machinima directors that I have
Yeah,
been
for
watching.
sure.
She has so much fun with her
Hmm.
work, and I love her Lara Croft series that she does.
Yes.
And I just love that
It is awesome.
her machinimas are just so dynamic
Hmm.
and they have so much character in them, and
They
I
do, and
really,
she's
really love her
always
work.
trying to learn new things too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
She
Always.
also comes across as a really nice person too.
She's an
she
Um,
amazing
does.
yeah.
person. Yeah, she's such a sweetheart. I love her.
She
Yeah.
she sort of she gave me some tips, and it was it, sometimes you can maybe misconstrue someone who's helping you, and it sounds like they're lecturing you rather than helping you.
Right.
Well,
Hmm.
this was
Hmm.
the absolute opposite. It sounded like she was, oh, I'd really like you to know this is okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
She's so
it's great.
sweet. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like she came onto the scene like it was last fall, I think, shortly before the new year, and it's amazing because you're right. She's very recent in this, and I in my mind I see her as just a seasoned vet. Like her work is just so amazing and astonishing, and
Yeah.
sometimes I forget like she's been at
Right.
it for a couple
Right.
months,
Hmm.
and it's just already mind blowing.
There,
Yeah.
there is also a challenge there. We will encounter people who say are excited about the fact that they can make machinima, but they've never done anything like it, and thus it's going to be raw and simple. But you
Hmm.
can see the people who come from specific artistic backgrounds,
Right.
like whether it be painters or photographers or whatever, and you go, oh, that composition is just so good
Right.
that
Right.
and the color is really really inducing my mood, and then you go, yep,
Hmm.
that person, no surprise, comes from years and years of art experience. and
Right.
and what's nice is I have heard people with very very different backgrounds and levels of skill always find ways to uplift and grow the people no matter what, whether they're first time expressing their art or they've got quite a lot of skill background, but they still didn't notice that something could have been improved.
Hmm.
Right. Right. So, okay. So we have an audience question right now for you guys. So, for
An
those of you
audience?
who we do have an audience, don't you see them all?
Oh.
No.
Yes. Hello, sorry, I can see you.
Yeah. So hello
I
everyone
can
that I
see
don't
that
see.
person in the front row sneering at
So,
me.
so for those of you, because we have to start wrapping things up here, but I want to make sure I get, yeah, I know this last question, and I also want to hear about um, some a new project that you guys are working on. But I'll get to that. So for those of you who may not know, or in this case, what Alan Smithy is, it's an official pseudonym used by a film director who wished to disown a project, right? So generally,
Mm.
if you direct a film, the Directors Guild will not allow you to remove your name from it. But let's just say that during that filming, the executive producers and writers came into this and completely changed everything, right? And they heavily recut everything, and post productions. Just the editors just ruined what your vision was. Um, and then it's just very night and day from what you were having, what you signed on for. So back in the day, you could stand in front of the guild judges and request your name to be removed and place with the name Alan Smithy. So with that being said, have you ever wanted to Alan Smithy a project you've worked on? Just completely disown it for one reason or another.
In Machinima?
in
Not
Machinima. Yeah,
Um,
not currently,
not
no.
currently.
Thank
Okay.
goodness.
yeah, no,
Okay.
I have not. Yeah, I would assume I would never do that because it's just whatever you do is part of your
Hmm.
history, no matter what,
Yeah.
whether you are proud of it or you like it
Right.
or not. I would assume that would should never be
Hmm.
the case, but I don't know. Maybe there are some circumstances that might arise where someone might just maybe it's who you're
Yeah.
working with,
Maybe. Yeah.
possibly. I'm not sure.
Maybe.
Unless the style was so altered, I think a lot of us give away that it's us anyway. If we,
Hmm.
we have. If you look at our body of work, I think all of us have our little fingerprint,
Hmm.
and if we were
Mhm.
to stand back from that, I think people would be then telescoping the reason. Why did you do that? Why that's so clearly you. Why did you? Why did you not want to associate yourself? So you'd be making yourself a worse situation than if you just went, I'll cope.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
think
I get
too,
that.
being self-propelled as we are, we have a bit more cushion than other people who are under contract as well. I
True.
think it would
Yeah.
get to the point where we would just walk away from a project before it got to that point.
Hmm.
You're really right, and that feeds
Yeah.
back again to that earlier question of some of the advantages that you have in Second Life. Yeah, there's if we all want to make something, there's no one telling us that we can't.
True.
There's no one
Right.
saying, no, I'm sorry, the shareholders, their profit margin will plummet if you make that particular film. No, we just get to do it and
Exactly.
enjoy
Yeah.
it.
So Rizzo will admit that he's done vlogs that he had no input over whatsoever. The look of the Avies or the sets when it was done, flexy hair, he didn't even put it on his YouTube at all. So there's been, creative freedom is a big big thing here too, especially when you're vlogging or something like that. Um
Maybe I suppose another a way of asking it, seeing as that we haven't experienced, is what would it take for us to want to distance ourselves
Hmm.
from
mhm.
a project? And I think for me it would be if there was something about the narrative which was abhorrent to me.
Yeah.
If I thought we were doing something and then it turned out to be, I don't know, a short film for white nationalists or something like that, I might go to get
Oh
just.
no.
I am not going anywhere near that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I'm gone and
Yeah.
remove any reference from me. I mean, it would
Right.
Right.
have to be
Right.
extreme for me to want to not just cop it on the chin and go, well, I didn't like how it turned
Yeah.
out, but I didn't have control over that. So,
Yeah.
you know,
Agreed.
So I have a
c'est
little
la vie.
chat. Oh, go. Sorry. Go ahead.
Oh no, I
Sorry.
just said c'est la vie.
Oh, Sailor. Yeah. So I have a little challenge for you guys. You guys have 1 minute each to talk to me or talk to our audience, talk to us about a project you've recently been working on. You had 2 minutes, but I cut it down to one. You're welcome.
Okay. Well, I guess I'll go. I do have something. I actually have a crime series in the making that I'm very
Ooh.
excited about, and I actually just released an unofficial trailer for it a few days ago. It's a thriller suspense series, and it's actually set to be filmed on the Wandering New York sim. Shout out to
Nice.
Kaden and Pandora, who are very, very lovely and accommodating friends. And it's about the struggle of a group of officers, detectives, agents, if you will, who find themselves in a position where they end up having to choose between duty, honor, and their own personal interests while seeking their own version of justice throughout the trials that they go through.
I'm
And
in.
Yeah, I'm down.
well,
I want to see that.
I saw that little teaser trailer. I'm
I
excited.
am
Yeah.
too, and we're actually going to be holding auditions this fall. So
Can I play a nasty person?
I would love to have
We are all in.
anyone.
We are all there for you.
I honestly would love to have anyone and everyone come and audition or try out for some of these main characters.
Yes, please.
Just stay tuned.
I'll be the one camping outside. I'm
All right,
gonna be
we're
the
all
person
there.
just
Okay,
watch party.
Sage, I'm giving you this 1 minute challenge. Choose. Tell me of something you've
Sure.
recently worked on or you're currently working on.
Well, I'm working on a script for a drama series, and I'm conflicted to talk fully about it because I just was told to pivot and actually shop the script in real life. So, which is a very crazy concept because that's huge to do for any, I think, writer,
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
director. Um, so that's what I'm working on. It's based in New York, which is where I'm from. I'm now in Hollywood, as you may have maybe not guessed, but anyways, and it's about family. It's about faith. It's about friendship, and that's as much as I can give you for now.
That's
And
okay.
if it ends up getting picked up, you'll hear from me. And if
Yes.
it doesn't, it will become a short series on Second Life maybe by next year.
Well,
That's
I hope it gets
amazing.
picked
That
up.
is
It'd
exciting.
be lovely to hear that
That would
you
be
get that
really
success.
amazing. Yeah.
I'm
Yeah,
sure all of us want that for you.
Yeah, for
Thank you.
sure.
No, I live,
absolutely.
breathe, eat film, so
Yeah,
Yeah,
I love that
that
for
would be
you.
wonderful.
All right,
thank you.
Hugh, you're up.
Um, I think I'm going to be seeing these five names that are involved in this. Somehow, I think we're all going to be turning up in each other's works from here on in.
Yes, I'm
Um,
I'm
down.
definitely down.
so very quickly, we just finished the and released with Mac's help the Blade Runner Insurgents, the first part. We are. This is not something that the end of it doesn't conclude. So it sort of gets set up to a particular premise, and we are going to create the rest. We just can't right now really put a deadline on exactly when it's going to come out. But yeah, I'm really happy with it, and because so many people had something to do with it, I'd love for people to come along and check out Blade Runner Insurgents.
Blade Runner Insurgents. All right.
That was an
You
absolute
know I'm down.
masterpiece, Hugh. I
I
was really
mean,
proud of
Thank you.
um,
that one. You may or may not have a
maybe,
piece in it. Yeah,
maybe,
maybe,
spoiler,
possibly.
maybe. Mac.
Spoiler alert, people. Yes. Oh, speaking of another film that Laz Wayman might possibly be
Maybe,
in,
maybe.
um, I'm working on I'm working on Digital Rain 2023 Part Two. It's set to be a trilogy of films here this year, and we're
Yes.
about halfway through it. I'm working on some edits, and once again trying to push some boundaries from the previous film. I'm always trying to do something new, something
Mhm.
exciting that I haven't done before. But that said, it's set to be a trilogy. It's a feature length, so so far it's cutting in about 50 minutes, and that is the current project right
Well,
at the moment.
awesome.
So sometimes there's smaller productions, and then there's this. It takes a
Can I just
while.
Right.
very quickly jump in and say I really liked your Superman film. I've watched it multiple times.
Yeah,
I really
I
enjoyed it.
think
Hmm.
I loved having you in that Superman film as General Zod, but uh,
Yeah,
yeah, the one thing I was like, that one was just the background of, oh, like I said, we're perfectionists,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
We
Well, I
catch
am
things.
very proud of all of you guys, and I think that you guys are all doing, Rizzo and I both think that you guys are doing such an amazing job at what you're doing. And we
Thanks.
really appreciate you all coming here today and just taking the time to talk to us and talk to everybody a little bit about Machiniwha, you know, and and yeah, just like kind of helping everybody get the idea of what it is and how we move forward and all that. So thank you guys for being on our very first episode, and I think that's all. We're gonna call it a wrap here, and you know,
Fantastic.
say our
Can I just
goodbyes.
can I just say one thing
Awesome.
though? I often feel because we're doing it on our computers, we're doing it, in the small hours of the night, all of these types of things. I often feel very alone when doing this.
Hmm.
It's
Mm.
lovely to now realize that there's a community of us, and that we should always keep our hands out to touch with everyone else,
Right.
because you don't have to feel alone.
Right, exactly. That's why I'm
I
always
agree.
offering
It's a very good
myself
community.
out to people. Like, what do you need help with? What can I do? What can I do? Like the, we can definitely, like I'm always like, what do you need? Do you need set? Do you need voice? Do you need acting? Do you need this? Like, what do you just tell me what you need? And I love to help you. Like, I just want to help people. I just want to be there and be a part and help them produce their films and all of that stuff, And all of you guys are part of our Second Life Video Creators Group. We love having you guys there. Anybody who wants to join, please do. It's an amazing group for Machinima. It's very much about support and working together and collaborating. There's tutorials, there's helpful things there. People can come in and ask people for help and, and get help. Like Hugh and everybody here was saying, if you need help with something, everybody's there is just so welcoming. And that's a really good place to go in and ask for these helps, like whether you need to figure something out, or you need help with a set, or you need voiceover actors, or you need actors period, or whatever it is, it's just a really good community that we have there. And Rizzo and I are very proud of everything that it's been created. And we love that you guys are a part of it, and we hope that more people just join it so they can be a part of it too. And we'll make sure that we link that Discord in the description. But I think, yeah. So I think that's kind of
Bring it in.
group
hug.
in,
Group
Bring it
hug.
hug.
Bring it in.
Go
Yeah.
in peace
Oh.
and love one another.
Yeah.
I just want to say something really quickly. I didn't know that you guys existed, like the SL Video Creator Group, up until this December, or like around the time of the award show that just happened.
Mm-hmm.
And I had created a Facebook group like last year because I was like, where's everyone who actually makes videos? And I told Jordan when I first met him, I was like, had I known, I would have been in there like swimwear. Like, but it's, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm glad that you guys have.
Everybody was just kind of
They
scattered.
were.
when I got on
Yeah.
that scene.
They were.
MacGyver, you're like,
There's people meeting every
Mhm.
week.
yeah.
Go ahead, Sage.
I was just gonna say, like, you're you are creating constantly, and I'm always seeing your work in the group, in the filmmaker of Second Life group, and honestly, it's just so inspiring to see how much you like can put out.
Yeah, I'm sure you've got a clone.
Oh,
It's got to
wow.
be a clone.
I second
I
that.
have I clone myself
Well,
often.
we'll let.
Like when I don't put out work, people are like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "Oh God, I'm just
Well,
enjoying
we're
life."
gonna wrap this up real quick. We can talk afterwards, but we're gonna cut the air right now. We'll see everybody next month. We have a whole new panel ready for you guys. We're gonna discuss more Machinima. We're gonna get in some more directors, or maybe some creators, or just people who love Machinima. Who knows? But you guys need to stay tuned and check us out next month. See you there.
And look out for the shadows.